Sometimes no announcements is good. I'd like to ask Troy, would you like to please open us up in prayer?
Father, I thank you for this day, and thank you for letting us come here to you. And I pray that you open our hearts and open our minds. Lord, we thank you in Jesus' name.
Amen. Well, we are going to look at the topic I've entitled it "Hope for Homosexuality," and I did something like this several years ago. I can't remember how long ago it was. Was anybody here for that when I did that years ago? I don't see any hands going up. Okay. Yeah, of course, this is the new updated version. Yeah. Put a warning up because, it's a difficult topic. It's a very difficult topic. And, but it's an important topic, especially for our day and age. Well, really any day and age, really. So I did want to, put that warning up there. By the way, you like how I did that? I like it too.
That's good.
All right. So these issues can stir up deep passion among all people, including Christians. Yet my purpose is to generate light and not heat. Okay. And as always, let's look at a few questions for discussion. First question is homosexuality sin? And if so, then is it different from any other sin?
Yes,
I heard a yes and a no.
I agree.
And I heard agreement that it's a yes and a no.
I don't think homosexuality is necessarily a sin if they don't act on it.
Very interesting thought.
Even thinking about it is the act itself. So,
yeah. My sister and my daughter are both lesbians. My sister found Christ about a year ago. So my prayer for her is just that she is the strength to not act on it. I mean, if that's how she still feels, but she's a force for the Lord right now. So gives me hope for my daughter, actually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely.
don't know if you'll ever not feel that way. If you are, I don't know. Unless God can take that over.
Well, that's an interesting point because, first of all, unless you are homosexual, we don't know. I mean, we don't necessarily know what they think or feel, and so there's a lot that we don't know about it. And also, I think what you said, Pat, is a very thought-provoking point. Okay, so I think I'm going to get a little bit more into that, but. Well, then again, let's get to the next part of the question here is, is it different from any other sin? Now, a lot of people say that, but is that what the Bible says? We've kind of talked about this before.
Well, any kind of sin, I mean, if you're cheating on your husband or vice versa, it's a sin.
Yeah, looks at it differently. I think the sin of murdering a child and the sin of stealing food, to me, is different.
Yes. There's some that are more gray than others.
Yeah, well, there are different levels of sin, and that's why there are different levels of punishment in hell. We talked about that. Remember? Just like there's different rewards for people that go to heaven. So, yeah. I mean, God wouldn't be a fair God if he treated everybody the same.
Now, one more point. If a homosexual person doesn't act on it, but if they are here, then they've already committed sin. That's right.
Well, that's
it's kind of, because they may daydream about it. Because it says if you lust after somebody, it's the same thing as doing it.
right. Right. Okay, well, that's good. I mean, it's not good, but
Yeah.
good answer.
It's good for thought.
Shouldn't we just live and let live? Why should we be concerned about this subject?
That's God's law.
I mean, I've always had that attitude, you know, I think most of my life growing up is, you know, live and let live, you know. I mean, do
You
the folks who
can't
vote.
control the other person. If you talk to them and try to make them see the way of God, but you can't force them. So is that letting them live the way they want to live?
Then the fact that we can't expect more if someone's not saved. from
Yeah,
what
they're
they
not
do,
saved.
But.
Right, if you're not
Should be
saved.
something we're concerned about.
Yeah, Paul, you're itching.
Yeah, I'm just in between.
Okay.
I mean, basically, you know, yeah, in a way, yes, but now the days are different these days. It's not the same where we can just sit here and say, live and let live. I mean, they're so aggressive that they are trying homosexual as normal. We're the ones that are the far left or far right, whatever. But, you know, that homosexual is normal, and every darn movie and every TV program has got to have two lesbians or men kissing. It's you know, I mean, because they want to make it so normal.
Yeah, they call it the new normal.
There's nothing.
Right, I mean, I'm of the same opinion that, you know, I don't ram Christianity down people's throats.
No.
You know, you could come and hear me preach, or you can just walk out, and I've had people walk out before. But I don't like it being forced on me.
Right. And they want us to everywhere to be transphobe,
Yeah,
or whatever it's called.
yeah, and you do see this increase of violence happening because of it, and
Well, becoming further to both sides now. You know, it's like there's no middle ground.
yeah, I mean, it's really, well, okay, we'll get into it. Are some people born to be homosexual, or is it a learned behavior?
Oh, that's a touchy subject too.
Mhm.
That's back to your organic, you know, diagnosis with psychological stuff too.
Then there's young kids that
Homosexuals are
So-
children.
when they're young kids, they don't know the difference.
And some are
Two
molested.
dads and two moms raising kids.
Leaning that way. That's a good question. Only God can answer that.
I think when there's also children that have been molested when they were young, and they turn to their own gender,
Yeah,
you know, so.
I think all of those are true. So many reasons can cause a person to go that way. But
Right.
the part that I'm always wondering about is the little kids, and there's no reason for it. And it happens.
or maybe there is a reason, it's just that we're not aware of the reason.
Something to do with the chemical.
It could be that.
Like some of the requests, how can that happen? And the same even thought or breath possible. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, there's websites, and you look at what their beliefs are. If you see the term open and affirming, that's pro-homosexual church. That's the key term, open and affirming. So they may not even say it, you know, outright, you know, but the open and affirming, and then you know.
So what does that define as that, if you are an active homosexual, you're allowed in the church? Or is it your sister that is not acting on it and she's,
My sister, yeah.
or is it a person like that that has God in them and is not acting on it? So is that church? that
If
definition-
they're open and affirming, they're open and affirming to the fact that you are an active homosexual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will marry.
Yeah, they'll marry them, they'll ordain them, whatever, yeah.
Oh, ordained, that's,
Yeah.
There was a church, they said they were part of the Catholic, she had like the woman who was in charge wasn't a man, it was a woman of this church, sect, whatever it was. They wanted to rent my restaurant, this was like back in the 90s, for some function, a war dinner, and, they accepted homosexuals, I think they even ordained some, but they were like, it was sort of women out there.
or ministers, but they don't call, Catholics don't call ministers, and they're priests, of course,
Janus.
Well, they're not an approved Catholic by the Vatican, they're their own
That's a
branch of,
They have a diocese paper of some sort, so, I don't know, I just.
yeah.
well, we're gonna talk about that as well. Can a homosexual be rehabilitated? And I think we've kind of already talked about that, the answer is yeah. Is same-sex marriage necessary to ensure equal rights for all?
No. Well, and when you get married and you're not allowed, then it's not equal rights, I guess.
Right.
So this weekend when I was away at my brother's funeral, my sister and I, she was the first one in our family to actually follow Billy Graham Campus Crusade in college. It broke my mother's heart, so my mother kind of came around to let us all do whatever we wanted to do. But she said to me, a lot of the Christians don't believe with her. Now, her husband teaches at Calvin College up there in Michigan. So I don't know if she's Calvinist or if she's just because he's there. But she said to me that in the civic world, she believes it's fine. And if she means they have rights under the laws of our land, and I tried to talk to her, we were going to the airport and she went her way and I went mine. I thought, I have to just touch base with her because I don't understand where she's coming from. But she's like, in the civic world it's fine, but when you come to home and church, God definitely lays out the plan in the Bible. I'm like, why is there a difference? From civic home and church. I mean, it's just wrong. It just blew me away. I really need to still reach out to her and talk to her because I have no idea what she was talking about. But that's equal rights. Like, in other words, they would have equal rights, allowed to be married, or the same inalienable rights like in the Constitution. I'm like, oh yeah, but the way she said it, I just don't understand it.
Well, we're gonna touch on that, and again, that's coming from the perspective of someone who's not homosexual. So they may not agree with me, but based on my studies and research, I'll tell you what I think when we get to it. So yeah. All right. Is transvestitism and/or sexual reassignment related to homosexuality?
I think so, to a point. Because the one guy that was the Bud Light person, he, right, he was a homosexual. But then all of a sudden he decided he wanted to be a girl. So, I don't think all of them, but I think a lot of it has to do with homosexuality, yes.
I think a lot of that is
They're
their
keeping-
brain is messed up.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
They have an identity crisis.
You know, they weren't reared with common sense or something.
Well, we'll get into the reasons. Can a person be both homosexual and Christian? We kind of already touched on that as well. So let's just keep going then. I should be touching on all these as we go through the program. Why is an entire month devoted to gay pride? And why was June chosen? I mean, you look at all the holidays, I mean, even Christmas, I mean, there's a day, or Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. I mean, why a whole month? Wow. I mean, golly, they get a whole month.
We have Black Culture Month, I mean, June, February, so.
Oh, you got Juneteenth too, but you don't have, yeah, you have Black History Month.
Right.
Yes, but.
Well, you know, the weird thing is, if you look at, you know, Black History Month propaganda, Very often they'll include on the letter, and oh, by the way, don't forget, the other minorities, and then they start listing them and stuff like that, so they use that as a platform to promote their own agenda.
You know, there was a thing on TV that I had seen about a gay guy. And his attitude about all of this stuff is that they're just flaunting it. And he says, those are the ones that make it bad for people like myself that are gay and they don't want to, you know, act like complete idiots with it. They just want to live.
Well, we're gonna hit right on that. That's part of the whole thing. Yeah, sure is. And why do you think June was chosen?
And a year, I don't know, the wedding month. Probably.
I think Junior was the daughter.
I don't know,
She
because
was
I'm
the-
not gay.
She was the wife of Jupiter, but died.
I believe, with really no doubt, really, is they designed it that way to purposely come up against Father's Day.
Oh,
Oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
That's pretty practical.
To take it out, take the wind out of the sails of Father's Day and focus on the.
so like fathers and not mothers. Like in May.
May was already taken.
Because fathers do not exasperate your children to anger.
Yeah.
The month of May is colder, the month of June is warmer, and they can get out on the streets and act like complete idiots.
Perhaps. But nevertheless, it is about Father's Day. What is an abomination?
Against God.
Anything against God is an abomination.
Sinning.
Something wrong.
So every sin is an abomination.
Why not?
And you have the abomination
You
of
were saved, that's
Testament.
why we have Where does it sound?
Works.
Well, it's not us who uses that word, it's God who uses that word. And so he calls some sins an abomination, implying that some sins are worse than others. Okay. So he does call homosexuality an abomination. So. What is the penalty for homosexuality in the Old Testament? What about the New?
Did they stone them?
Sodom and Gomorrah, they were wiped out, you know, just a little, I got.
Yeah.
I don't know about the New Testament.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that.
Well, if it's an abomination against God, the penalty would be death. So what about the New Testament?
Should be the same.
Should be the same.
Isn't it the same?
I would think, yeah. God's law was the same as it is now.
You'll have to wait a little longer. And the last question is, does committing a homosexual act make someone a homosexual?
No, they do that in prison all the time.
Right, because with all the human trafficking going on now, someone is now forced to do something. So they've committed the act where the other person has never done it, but they think about it. You know what I'm saying? There's that person who's never done it, but they want to do it. The heart is into wanting to do it. Then you have the person who doesn't want to do it, but they're pressed into it. And so, yeah. So, I mean, there's a complexity here,
Perverts will do anything sexual, no matter who it's with or what they do. They're perverts. So, but that don't mean they're homosexual.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yes.
I had read something once, it was years ago, so I don't even remember the wind-up or what I ended up thinking about it. But as far as Sodom and Gomorrah, they talk about because of the homosexuality. But the gist was, it was just kind of like, maybe not the last straw, but that the town was just so immoral and corrupt anyway. And that wasn't just because they were doing that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay.
That was just one of the symptoms of a very, very wealthy yet self-centered society. They did not help the poor. In fact, I think I'm going to get into that as well. But they didn't help the poor. They didn't do anything good to do anything good to help people. It was just about self-gratification, and so right, the homosexuality was a part of it. Yeah. All right. Well, LGBTQIA plus issues have been an ongoing firestorm in our society. Can anybody here tell me what all those initials stand for?
That's about greater, I wrote them down here.
The IA is new to me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Lesbian,
lesbian,
gay, bi,
lesbian,
trans.
he is gay, he is bisexual.
The plus is
Trans.
probably anything else they can think of.
If you look up sexes on Google, there's like 50, 60, I don't know how many different types, so that's why the plus. You can't list them all.
Yeah, whatever they come up with, they want to add something else to it.
You got me on the IA.
Plus.
Okay. Okay, well, according to Google, you have lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual, and plus means plus, whatever.
But gay and queer, it's probably the same thing.
It's too cute.
Why do they have two of them in there?
You'll have to ask them that.
Yeah, really.
I don't know that much. I mean, I'm just trying to help out. Okay. Everybody got that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, testimonial of a homosexual. I'm the son of a Baptist pastor. I'm now married, but have struggled with homosexuality most of my life. I can tell you absolutely I did not choose these feelings. I know how my parents and other church members feel about this because I've heard them speak strongly about how terrible homosexuality is. I felt horrible growing up knowing how I felt. There are times when I don't want to go on living. Yeah. And you know, the thing is we really don't know enough to sit here and do a psychoanalysis or spiritual analysis.
We don't know if his Baptist pastor dad was
Right.
bumper, and I mean, we just don't know the whole story from that.
Right. There's a lot of weirdos out there, I don't care who they are,
Yeah.
from different churches and stuff. So yeah.
Or he could be one of those that started off as a very young kid.
Possibly.
I know my mom being Catholic strict, and a lot of us, my uncle was a priest. We talk about my sister, I should mention, I just was kind of, damn. My sister joined Billy Graham's Campus Crusade, my priest used to say she was damn also. But anyway, so my daughter, I've been hearing some of this. I remember there's times where I've spoken to her to apologize for the belief, but just to explain a little more. So I think it came down kind of harsh back in the day. But when I had to meet her once, halfway from the other coast, she told me I'm not going to get off of that exit because there's a church at that exit. And she can't believe God would think that with her. So it's been, just, look for, just try to insert, yeah. I gotta be honest with her about
A lot of, some do, but some really don't want it, and they're in the closet, they're like,
Him.
yeah, well, he's not in the closet, I don't think.
Well, he hasn't come out apparently from what is out there.
Oh, he's here.
Yeah,
Right.
he hasn't come out from the way I interpret
He doesn't say he's married to a woman.
No.
True.
You know, I'm assuming he is.
It makes it sound like it is, like it's
But-
a terrible, but.
Right. Like I said, there's too much we don't know to really look at that. So let's begin with some circumstantial evidence, okay? So, I mean, really almost from the beginning of the Bible, Genesis 9, beginning of verse 20, it says that Noah began to be a farmer and he planted a vineyard. Then he drank of the wine and was drunk and became uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on both their shoulders, and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father. They went backward. Their faces were turned away, and they did not see their father's nakedness. So Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done to him.
I remember reading that.
Yeah, and there's some translations will say that he laughed at his father, or different translations. But the implication among most scholars is that the son did something sexual to his dad. Okay.
Maybe it's just like shaking free on the hand.
Maybe.
So which son?
This would be Ham.
Ham.
And later he curses Canaan. So why did he, if Ham did it, why would he curse the son Canaan?
And then what would he go out and tell his brothers, look what I did to dad because he's naked, or would he just tell them, hey, dad?
Well, it's a confusing text. But, obviously he did something, and most scholars believe definitely it's something sexual. In fact, there's something considered sexual by most scholars that happens actually much earlier than this. Okay. But I'm trying to keep it, as firm as possible here. So why would God or Noah later curse Canaan but not Ham, who actually did the act? It's kind of irrelevant to the topic that we're on here. The reason why is because he had already blessed his three sons, and once you bless your son, you can't now take the blessing away. So he then had to curse the son. Okay.
Of the son of Ham.
Yeah, so he cursed Canaan. That's why it says, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brothers outside. So again, many scholars believe that this was some kind of a homosexual act took place. Okay, and that's why I'm calling it circumstantial. Okay. Many scholars believe that this was a case of homosexual rape. Could there be another interpretation of the text? Because some translations, when you read it, it sounds like he walked in the tent, saw his dad naked, started laughing.
Like laughing,
And
that's what my text.
But if you live in the same household with somebody long enough, you're going to sooner or later going to see him naked or something. That happens, I guess. Why would Noah be so angry that he curses Ham's descendants to eternal slavery? Got to be a reason. I think it was more than just laughing at his dad, seeing him naked and laughing at him.
Right.
Yeah, something's fishy.
But why was he drunk in the first place? You know what I mean?
Well,
What happened?
we could sit here and get into a lot of the background, but again, some scholars think that because of the pre-flood world, there was no fermentation back then because there was no death, remember? And so there was no fermentation. So he planted a vineyard, and what happens to the grape juice when it sits there for a while? Well, it ferments. And so maybe he thought, after that long voyage on 40 days and 40 nights, I think I'm going to tie one over. Maybe that was a legitimate thing he did.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, maybe it was accidental. We don't know. But it doesn't justify him getting raped by his son. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah. Okay. The sin of Sodom and Gomorrah, so we're going to kind of get into the fact that they were bad in general. It wasn't just the homosexuality. This is from Ezekiel 16, beginning in verse 49. Look, this was the iniquity of your sister Sodom. She and her daughter had pride, fullness of food, and abundance of idleness. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and needy. And they were haughty and committed abomination before me. Therefore I took them away as I saw fit. So again, why would God destroy them? Was there no hope for repentance? But they were well fed, they had time on their hands, they had nothing to do, but they didn't go out and help the poor and needy, did they? And so obviously they came up with weird thoughts and did weird things, right?
So didn't Lot ask God to just not destroy everyone? So if that was the original plan, then maybe there was no hope for repentance. And his wife still wished she was there. And turned around.
Yeah, well, it was Abraham that was bargaining with God.
Oh, that's right.
And Abraham said, well, Lord, there's 100 righteous people. Surely you're not going to destroy a city of he's not going to do that. But what if there's 50 righteous? What if there's 20? What if there's he's little? He's sitting there dickering around here with God. And so the only righteous people that he saw as righteous, he took them out and destroyed the city. So again, was there no hope for repentance? What did Jesus say in one of the Gospels? He says, "Woe to you, Chorazin, for if the people in Sodom knew what you know today, if they would have repented if they would have known. But it's going to be worse for you than it will be for them in judgment." So, why are the two angels so irresistible to the Sodomites? Remember, the angels came to get Lot, and all of a sudden, here come these men wanting to. Good-looking men. Yeah. But obviously they committed homosexuality before. New-looking people. And some have speculated that maybe they even already had relations with the fallen angels. So surely if we had relations with them, surely they'll put up to it, right? And yeah.
But now we're to hear that.
Huh?
There was a lot. Who gave the daughter? It's like, here, take it.
That was Lot.
That was Lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah, and you read in the commentaries that it was the custom of that day that when someone is staying at your house, and it's still a code in the Middle East that it's your job to protect whoever's staying at your house, and you take care of that person, you protect them, and hospitality is a very big, very important thing, and so. To now allow these men to come in and take these angelic beings would have been a horrible thing. But then it sounds just as bad to say, hey, why don't you come take my daughters instead?
That's because, women would not do anything special.
Yeah. Anyway, so again, what is an abomination? And they are haughty and committed abomination before me, therefore I took them away as I saw fit. Again, abomination is sin, but it's a super bad sin in the eyes of God. It's beyond regular sin. Someone once said that an abomination is a bomb in a nation, because it not only affects those involved, but it affects everybody around them. And it just, a lot of collateral damage. And so it's a bomb in a nation. Genesis 21, beginning in verse 9. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, who had borne Abraham, scoffing. Therefore she said to Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, namely with Isaac. And the matter was very displeasing in Abraham's sight because of his son. But God said to Abraham, whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice. For in Isaac your seed shall be called. Yet I will also make a nation of the son of the bondwoman, because he is your seed. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and sent her away. So, what did Sarah notice about Ishmael? Why was she scoffing? She saw him do something, and well, he's not going to have any inheritance of my son. And again, there's an implication there that scholars think that he had committed some kind of a homosexual act. Okay? I mean, think about it. Back in those days, people did have multiple wives and kids and everything like that. It's a pretty big deal to send one of these women and your child away into the wilderness. Here's what was it, like a loaf of bread or something and a skin of water? Here's a little bit for you, and he was very distraught about it. So something major, there must be something major that happened. He didn't want to do it, but even God said, hey, you need to listen to your wife. You do it. Why was Abraham so displeased about his son? Why would Abraham send his own son away? So again, we don't know. Again, it's kind of circumstantial right now. We don't know exactly. Leviticus 18:22. Now we're getting a little bit more specific now, okay? You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination. Nor shall you mate with any animal to defile yourself with it. Nor shall any woman stand before an animal to mate with it. It is a perversion. Leviticus 20:13. If a man lies with a male as he lies with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination that shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. Now, obviously it's talking about homosexuality. I couldn't imagine what else it's talking about. Deuteronomy 22:5. A woman shall not wear anything that pertains to a man, nor shall a man put on a woman's garments. For all who do so are an abomination to the Lord your God. So, does that mean that women are not allowed to wear pants?
They're not trying to pretend to be a man by wearing pants.
Right, because women's pants are clearly made for women, and men's pants are clearly made for men. I mean, it's, but some people take that, a woman has to wear dresses, and, the thing is, back then everybody had on a skirt. I mean, it's not like they had, so, you know what I'm saying.
In the winter time, when it's a jacket cold, it's not nice if you have a big pants on.
It's not my problem.
It costs the man lots of money if she's sick.
It's not my problem. Okay. Deuteronomy 23:17. There shall be no more ritual harlot of the daughters of Israel, or a perverted one of the sons of Israel. You shall not bring the wages of a harlot or the price of a dog to the house of the Lord your God. For any vowed offering for both of these are an abomination to the Lord your God. So remember, there was a lot of pagan influence back then. A lot of the pagan cults dealt a lot with sexuality, you know, and so they had temple prostitutes and harlots, and you know, would have orgies in the temple and all kinds of things, and you know, God's saying, you know, that stuff's not going to happen here, okay?
You know that plus in LGBTQ could eventually, if it isn't already, be bestiality.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I'm sure that's happening.
It does happen. It does happen. A lot more than we realize it's happening.
Yeah, maybe that plus is leading into that.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. Good observation. First and Second Kings refers to expelling the Sodomites out of the land. Isaiah 3:9. The look on their countenance witnesses against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom. They do not hide it. Woe to their soul, for they have brought evil upon themselves. So their very countenance, the way they walk, the way they move, the very stride. Yeah, and so, golly, look how back that was happening. So it's been around. It's been around forever. Yeah. Daniel 11:37 states that the Antichrist will not be a lover of women, which may be a possible reference to him being a homosexual. Yeah. So, a lot of references, really, a lot of references. Some liberal scholars have argued that these passages are not to be taken literally because they are culture-bound, temporal directives and or proprietary to the Israelites. And that is true that in some things in the Bible are culture-bound or temporal directives or proprietary to the Israelites. That is true. But what about this? Therefore, they are not eternally binding moral absolutes meant for the elect throughout the ages. While it is true that many things in the Old Testament don't apply to Christians of the New Testament, there are still many teachings that still apply in principle. Dr. Andreas Kostenberger and other Bible-believing scholars have effectively argued against their alternate interpretations. You know, so they've got their own homosexual Bible now, and Bible studies, and just designed to support their view and refute.
Yeah, they're saying Jesus, because he had all men as his disciples.
That he was a homosexual.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Is the Unitarian Church for homosexuals only?
It's not homosexuals only, but they are, no matter who you are, no matter what you are, whatever floats your boat, you're in it.
Oh,
Yeah. Whatever you are,
They
you
don't
are.
believe in guilt, is what I was told.
Again, sin is a universal concept, and abomination is a sin that God especially hates because of its widespread effects. Abomination. So I think it's kind of a good definition. Even secular psychiatrists throughout the 60s and 70s, if you remember this, determined that homosexuality was not natural and that it was a psychological problem which could be dealt with. Of course, now they're telling you the exact opposite.
Yes.
Okay. But for years and years, that was not the case. So what about the New Testament? Romans 1:26. For this reason, God gave them up to vile passions, for even their women exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. Likewise, also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust for one another, men with men committing what is shameful and receiving in themselves the penalty of their error which was due. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind to do those things which are not fitting. Being filled with all unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness. They are whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, violent, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, undiscerning, untrustworthy, unloving, unforgiving, unmerciful, who knowing the righteous judgment of God, that those who practice such things are deserving of death, not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. So we see that the New Testament on this topic pretty much agrees with the Old Testament. Okay? And one thing that may not pop out at you so much is that not only are they deserving of death, but those also who approve of those who practice them. You know, if you think about it, between 7 to 10% of our population in this country is homosexual at most. But think about the oodles of people that are supporting it. Maybe they're not homosexual, but they're supporting it. And yet, it's that support that God says that hey, you're deserving of death too. Yeah. So, interesting text. Everybody get that? So the Bible is clear that homosexuality is sin. Additional scriptures include 1 Timothy 1:10, 2 Timothy 3:3, Jude 7:8, Revelation 22:15, and so if you're taking notes. I didn't think it was.
What's that picture supposed to be? Is it that, I mean, does that mean it's two lesbians or just a mother and her two daughters or what?
Only God knows.
Okay, well,
Does one of those look like the mother?
Yeah.
yeah,
No.
Looks older.
the one on the left looks older.
The one on the left? I thought the one on the right looked older.
Well, I say they're two lesbians. Let's vote on it.
Probably right, that's what I think.
I don't know, to me, the one on the left has more.
You guys are such a hard group. I struggle so much. Actually, we're just about out of time. I didn't realize it. And I didn't think it was necessary for me to write down every verse after verse after verse, but we can see the Old Testament, the New Testament describes a clear precedent, and but we'll get a lot more into this next week. So we have to stop now. We're out of time. Any questions or thoughts?